Alright. Okay, I'll do it. Jeez. Hey everyone, welcome to News and Whatnot. I'm your host, Thomas Cunningham, and this is my co-host, Carlos B. Dog, the news dog. Hey guys, here's some news. I'm being held captive here. I don't know where I am. I woke up in this room with my dog and some people in masks. They told me I had to do a news show. I had to watch the news, recap it, add some context, like, a news show. I said, I don't want to do that. And they said, well, you sure like to comment on the news on Twitter, so do a news show, or we won't feed you. So I guess if you guys can figure out where I am, help. Anyway, the news. Donald J. Trump, the J stands for Jesus Christ. Can you believe this guy's still the president? Anyway, the president tweeted something outrageous and offensive today. So I guess the world outside the room hasn't changed at all. In the tweet, Trump compared the impeachment investigation against him to a lynching. For those of you who don't know anything about American history, lynching in America is generally, pretty much always, associated with a period of American history where black people were assaulted and hung by mobs of white people for crimes such as smiling at a white woman or being black. Not quite the same thing as a president being held to task through a constitutionally legal investigation for potentially, probably, definitely, abusing the office for his personal gain. And while if any other president had said anything like that, it would be a scandal. For Trump, it's just Tuesday. This just in. Joe Biden, Grandpa, give me a hug, sweetie, referred to the impeachment of Clinton as potentially a partisan lynching. Oh, there's video. Well, yeah, fuck Joe Biden. Seriously, fuck that guy in the ear. And we'll talk more about that shithead later. Because things shouldn't be, partisan when it comes to any of this reprehensible shit. Okay? Speaking of that impeachment hearing, yesterday Bill Taylor, the acting U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine, testified. And you may remember him from the famous text messages to Gordon Sondland, Trump's ambassador to the European Union, in which he asked Sondland what was the holdup with the U.S. aid to the Ukraine. Or just Ukraine, sorry, still in that habit. Taylor said, "Are we now saying that security assistance and White House meetings are conditioned on investigations?" To which Sondland texted back, "Call me." Then, a few days or weeks later, Taylor also texted, "As I said on the phone, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign." Then Gordon Sondland called up Trump and said, "Oh, this guy's getting kind of uppity about this whole corruption thing and not giving the aid that we're supposed." So he consulted Trump and then texts back very casually, in language that obviously is natural, not at all covering his ass. He texted back, "Bill, I believe you are incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear, no quid pros of any kind." In response to reports on Taylor's testimony that he gave yesterday, the White House press secretary Stephanie Grisham defended Trump in a statement. Who's Stephanie Grisham? What happened to the sad lady raccoon and the spicy guy from Dancing with the Stars? The guy who kind of looked like Barney Rubble? I don't know. A lot of people come and go out of that administration, weirdly enough. Anyway, the White House's latest liar and proxy said, quote, President Trump has done nothing wrong. This is a coordinated smear campaign from far-left lawmakers and radical, unelected bureaucrats waging war on the Constitution. There was no quid pro quo. Now, is Bill Taylor a radical or far-left? No. He worked for George W. Bush and Obama. He was asked to be acting ambassador by Trump's BFF and Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. So the idea that Bill Taylor has any sort of agenda against Trump is completely unfounded. Allow me to read a little bit of Taylor's opening statement, which I think is quite worth reading. It's about 14 pages, but if you Google it, just look Bill Taylor's testimony or opening statement. But it gives a really strong overview of what his concerns were with this whole Ukraine deal and the aid. And it gives a little, the opening part gives a little background into this radical the White House is saying is part of a left-wing smear campaign. Bill Taylor says, quote, I have dedicated my life to serving U.S. interests at home and abroad in both military and civilian roles. My background and experience are nonpartisan, and I have been honored to serve under every administration, Republican and Democrat, since 1985. For 50 years, I have served the country, starting as a cadet at West Point, then as an infantry officer for 6 years, including with the 101st Division in Vietnam, then at the Department of Energy, then as a member of a Senate staff, then at NATO, then with the State Department, here and abroad, in Afghanistan, Iraq, Jerusalem, and Ukraine, and more recently as Executive Vice President of the nonpartisan United States Institute of Peace. While I have served in many places in many different capacities, I have a particular interest and respect for the importance of our country's relationship with Ukraine. Our national security demands that this relationship remain strong. However, in August and September of this year, I became increasingly concerned that our relationship with Ukraine was being fundamentally undermined by an irregular, informal channel of U.S. policymaking. That's hashtag Rudy Giuliani, bro. And by the withholding of vital security assistance for domestic political reasons. I hope my remarks today will help the committees understand why I believe that to be the case. At the outset, I would like to convey several key points. First, Ukraine is a strategic partner of the United States, important for the security of our country as well as Europe. Second, Ukraine is right at this moment, while we sit in this room, for the last 5 years under attack from Russia. Third, the security assistance we provided is crucial to Ukraine's defense against Russian aggression, and more importantly, sends a signal to Ukrainians and Russians that we are Ukraine's reliable strategic partner. And finally, as the committees are now aware, I said on September 9th in a message to Ambassador Gordon Sondland that withholding security assistance in exchange for help with domestic political campaign in the United States would be crazy. I believed that then, and I still believe that. Okay. Sorry that was a little long. But, so that's the guy we're talking about. A man with 50 years of service to this country. Somebody that it's pretty hard to question his motives and credibility. Another pertinent point that Taylor spoke of was a phone call with Sondland before those text messages that adds some context to why he believed there was indeed a quid pro quo. He said, Ambassador Sondland tried to explain to me that President Trump is a businessman. And when a businessman is about to sign a check to someone who owes him something, he said, the businessman asks that person to pay up before signing the check. Ambassador Volker used the same terms several days later while we were together at the Yalta European Strategy Conference. I argued to both that the explanation made no sense. Ukraine did not owe President Trump anything, and holding up security assistance for domestic political gain was crazy. So, there's a few things to note here. First and foremost, Trump had no right to withhold the aid money for any reason, since Congress had already approved it. And it's not his money, it's taxpayer money. Second, this money was money that President Zelensky of Ukraine desperately needed for Ukraine to defend themselves from Russia. Withholding it cost lives and probably put many more lives in danger. Third, if Trump was legitimately concerned about corruption, there are channels to go through, like the State Department or whatever, to investigate those things. He can't just go rogue and decide to withhold money already approved by Congress. Fourth, this concern with quote-unquote corruption seemed to be suspiciously limited to Ukraine interfering with our 2016 election, allegedly, and Burisma and the Bidens. Two things that don't have much, if any, evidence. All the investigations showed that it was Russia that interfered with the 2016 election in favor of Trump, and the Burisma company had been investigated, and there was no evidence of anything illegal in relation to the Bidens. Now, the guy that Joe Biden asked to be fired, that was not something Biden did himself. Everyone knew that that guy was corrupt and wanted him fired for not investigating corruption properly. So it wouldn't have helped Biden to get rid of that guy at all. So basically, the corruption that Trump demanded would be to be investigated before releasing the money were both specific issues that A, would benefit Trump if anything was found out, and B, it would benefit Trump just by virtue of the optics of there being an investigation to them. He wanted Zelensky to announce that he was opening these investigations. Why? Well, maybe because it would make Biden look bad. See, there's something there. There's an investigation. A lot of people are saying Biden is corrupt. So there you have it. Now, is there a quid pro quo? Fucking course there is. You don't have to say the words quid pro quo to make it one. Trump saying, I need a favor, though, when discussing money that Zelensky desperately needed for self-defense. I mean, you could even say that's more than a quid pro quo. That's potentially extortion. Because he's not just saying, hey, we'll give you the money. But, could you look into this Biden thing? He's withholding the money unless he gets what he wants. Kind of extortion-ish. Extortion adjacent, if you will. Now, of course, it got a little too hot, and people were starting to ask questions, including Taylor, about why the money wasn't released. So he had to give Ukraine the money. But the intention seems to be that he was going to withhold it for as long as possible in order to pressure Zelensky into announcing that he was opening the investigation. Sondland told Taylor the president was insistent that Zelensky had to, quote, clear things up and do it in public. And if they did not clear things up, then they would be at a stalemate. And he goes on to say, but President Trump did insist that President Zelensky go and announce in public that he's launching these investigations and that he should want to do it himself. Sort of a backdoor, if you want. I won't give you the money if you don't, but if you want, you could do this. I mean, come on, folks, that's quid pro quo bordering on extortion, plain and simple. I mean, the mafia didn't just go into a business and say, hey, we're extorting you. Pay us money or we'll fuck your shit up. They said, hey, you got a nice business here. It'd be a shame if some bad things happen or bad people came in and messed things up. You don't want those bad people doing that stuff, so give us some money, we'll protect you, It's a service, hire us. So, you don't have to say, hey, can you quid pro quo me? I mean, come on. Now, another red herring that keeps getting thrown around is what Biden did and how Hunter got his job. Now, here's the thing. Even if Biden did something criminal, it doesn't change the fact that you can't basically extort a foreign country to investigate. He's not the king. So that's that. And the Democrats, are they out to get Trump? Do they want him out of office? Of course. But that doesn't mean they're wrong and Trump is innocent. I mean, this is what this guy does. He's always done it. The art of the deal, baby. He gets what he wants by bullying people and exploiting and taking advantage of their weaknesses. Now, maybe if he did this kind of thing to help the country and not himself, you could give him some leeway, but that's not who he is. It's not what he does. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit unless your last name is Trump, and even then only like a quarter of a shit if your name is like Tiffany or Barron. So, that's where we're at. In other news, Mitt Romney had a secret Twitter account under the name Pierre Delecto. Lol. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please I don't know what they're going to do with this, so like it, subscribe to something, give me money. Maybe they'll let me go. Or at least give me food. Till next time.